It's the state of the dungeon. It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hello, my friends. I am Rob, and welcome to my State of the Dungeon address. This is the State of the Dungeon address for the game that took place on the 8th of July. The game is the opening of the campaign of the Red Star Rising from GUI Cube, using 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sort of. There are a few changes, but for the most part, it's a great spanning adventure story. The players all got to pick from pre-generated characters, which was the first thing that we did, and we had a little bit of role play moving on from that. It was an abbreviated night because we were also at the same time wrapping up the end of the Princess Bride role-playing game, which had prior ended and took up the first 2 hours of the night. So, the characters as they stand right now, the party is made up of Vanessa Alanas. Vanessa is an elf, and she is a druid. The main personality that people know of her is that she's frequently kind of distracted and seems to constantly be, paying attention to things that aren't the things around her. She doesn't always act appropriately, but she's very gifted with nature, and she's very graceful, and she's pretty. But yes, she's a gifted druidess. We have Brandel Steele, who is a human dragon-touched wizard. Brandel is very, very smart, and she is a try-hard, ceaseless perfectionist of her craft. And so she is working very hard to become an excellent wizard, and her gold dragon-touched aspect only feeds into that. She's very, very good, very, very gifted, but as a blood touch, she does stand out and is fortunate to be in with the Hanataz. Then we have Haranan Banai. Haranan is a human, fire-touched fighter. Haranan is very strong, quite quick, and a diligent warrior who loves practicing his skills and his arts, and he is very, very good. He has the fire aspect to him, and he is just known as a generally gregarious giant. Tall, strong, eager to help out others, and also eager to test out his skills. He enjoys sparring with other people, and sometimes challenging others to fights in the Carney setting so that they don't get hurt, which generally tends to make the Hanataz money because he is quite good. We have Glyn Wither, who is a half-elf ranger. As a boy, he was discovered and brought into the troop. He is a little close-lipped. As a matter of fact, he was found in almost a feral state, and he still doesn't always seem like he's completely comfortable around others, but he is a part of the Hanataz community. They have absorbed him in, and he is fiercely devoted to them. He's very, very good with a bow, and he's not bad in most other respects either. He's quite skilled. Perhaps not the talkative type, but he is strong and quick and healthy and pretty wise. So he's been fascinated with the rangering aspect, so he is very good and seen as a prodigy of sorts. And then finally we have Crendon Sharn. Crendon Sharn is a Hanataz by choice. He's a half-elf and a bard who does not have a blood touch, and he was not born into the troop, but he travels with them and has been accepted and kind of raised by the family. He is very, very gifted. He has magical abilities through his bardic training, and he generally excels at anything he tries to do. Everybody seems to like him. He's just that kind of guy. And there's really not much to say, despite the fact that he looks really young. He is a very talented musician. And at this point, the group also has a satellite attached to the group. One of the spell dancers of the Hanatas are also attached to the group. Unfortunately, we were without the presence of one of our players, but we are holding the character in reserve for hopefully when he can come back to us. So, but the scene started with the second to the last day of Carnival. The Hanatas are, if you think gypsies from our world and kind of the romanticized version of the Roma people, you'd be right about there. Now just imagine magic, and most of them have some sort of blood touch or some sort of disease which has deformed them or crippled them, that the Hanatas just picked them up and gave them purpose and a family of sorts. So all the player characters are Hanatas. And they get by going from town to town, entertaining, making money, and entertaining and selling goods and services to the people, just before they're driven off for being morally corrupt and mistrusted and mistreated by the general populace. So they're loved for the entertainment factor by the general populace, but also at the same time suspected and despised. It's kind of a tough life. But the group are all Frenta. They are young adults who are looking to prove themselves and master the skills that will make them adults in the society of the Hanatas, and someday, perhaps, ready to lead the troop themselves and become the Bravda of the group, or the leader in one way or the other, perhaps be a member of the council. So they were given their orders. Their job, as they are Zatis, they are helpers to everyone, is to patrol around and make sure trouble doesn't start. They're not there to entertain, they're not there to sell things. There is a definite need for security. Fights happen all the time. There's a general feeling of lawlessness that the townsfolk bring with them. So their responsibility is to make sure that it doesn't end in bloodshed. If somebody draws a weapon and they have to fight for their life, that's one thing. But even so, trying not to kill or injure people is a big part of being in the Hanatas, and trying to defray trouble as much as possible. So that is their job. They were met by Borag, the Bravda of the group, the All-Father of the Blue Veil troop that they belong to. And he charged them with basically their job of going around through the entirety of the Carnival and making sure nothing bad happened. They were also met by the captain of the guard of Nevermore, the town that they were currently camped outside of, and told they should leave. Borag told them that their counselors, who they claim to have this order from, are currently inside and enjoying the festivities, and that they will leave after tomorrow. This defrayed the situation, but it did leave a couple of the town guard roaming around the site for security purposes, which Borag is not happy with. So they were charged to keep an eye on things and make sure that the guard didn't cause trouble too. Then Borag went off because he usually supervises the wrestling ring, because wrestling is a popular sport in medieval type festivals. And as the champion of the Hanatas, he's there to wrestle if somebody wishes to challenge him. They pay their money, and he beats them badly, usually. Borag is a big, powerful fellow. So, the group, after Borag leaves, kind of takes stock of the situation, gets prepared for the rounds, and a wagon pulls up. And a lady comes out and her young boy. And almost the same time, a huge bear breaks out from the woods and goes straight at them. That's not good. Their coachman pulls out a short sword and tries to defend himself and them. The guards also start coming in to try to help out, but the party is the group that's there at the time. So they try to help. And it's quite clear that some of the bad luck from the Game of the Princess Bride still lingered. because the ranger, who should be very competent with his bow, fired and completely missed the bear. And Glenn will live that down because he was able to deliver a strike later. But he's very nimble. He took a shot. Yeah. Then Crendon went. Crendon used a spell, Dissonant Whispers, and all I can think of is Needed Careless Whispers by George Michael playing the saxophone, and that would be great. But it was enough to spook the bear to run away for a round, which probably saved the coachman, who was not at all really capable of defending himself against this massive, maddened bear, frothing at the mouth. The group who had looked at it decided that it was rabid, and it looked like it was completely unreasonable and sick and just violent. So many of the group ran up to try to help where they could. The lady had fainted dead away. The young lad was just standing there mesmerized by this bear. The coachman didn't want to be there, but he had to try to defend them. And a guard came up to try to see to the lady. The other guard came up by the coachman. Then the bear turned around and charged after the Dissonant Whispers effect was over. And it did. And it took the guard and nommed him and threw him. He wasn't getting up. And so this was seen as bad. The coachman had survived this. He hadn't been attacked, but at the same time, Vanessa moved up, and she ran up to help the boy to do something. And this was when Brandel uncorked a sleep spell. Now, Brandel is an accomplished wizard, but everybody gets a little jumpy on their first, killer bear. And when she tried to cast it, knowing that the circle of effect of the spell should only hit the bear, she attempted to cast it behind the bear so that nobody else would be in it. But she rolled very poorly, I believe rolling a 1 on her Arcana test to kind of aim it where she wanted it. Yeah, she put it squarely on the bear. That was the target she was looking at. And because the area of effect, it didn't exactly have the proper effect she was going for. It put the boy to sleep. It put the coachman to sleep. It put the guard who had moved up to sleep. But it did not affect Vanessa, who is an elf. So she can't be put to sleep. But that does mean that your druid is standing there with an angry bear in front of her. Now, Vanessa tried to think of different things she could do to placate the bear. She thought her animal friendship spell might work, but the bear was clearly too crazed for that. Likewise, talking to it probably wouldn't have worked very well. So she just tried to, hold it off. And she hit it with her sickle. She did connect. At this point, Glenn did fire his bow and tag the bear. And Brandel fired a volley of magic missiles into it, which badly hurt the bear. And the coachman did score with his short sword and did some damage. So, all told, the bear was actually pretty hurt by the end of it. And then it attacked and didn't bite, but savage with his claws Vanessa. Didn't drop her, but she was badly injured. In case you don't know, the pre-generated characters for this game are beefy. They are considerably tougher than standard first level characters. And as a first level druid, she was able to take this enormous bear, raking her and mauling her, but she didn't enjoy it, that's for sure. Well, that's when, again, the follow-up, an arrow scored from Hiranan. Hiranan is really not, he doesn't wear heavy armor. Nobody has really heavy armor in the group. He has leathers, so he preferred to use his bow in this one rather than go up and get chewed on by the bear. And with his arrow fire, Glenn's arrow fire, and finally one critical shot from Crendon with his crossbow, which punched into the bear's paw, drilled into its chest, and it died. Which spared Vanessa a quick trip to unconscious land with another successful attack, and possibly the bear would from then have gone after the boy or the guard, or it didn't look like it was right mind and might have gone after the fallen. So, the bear is now dead. Boreg and others came up to see how everybody was, and Vanessa did manage to heal herself a bit, but Braden is the cleric of the camp, and he just banished her injuries with a single spell. And even though the Hanatas aren't fond of these particular guards, they'd been having quite a bit of trouble with these swaggering, surly guards. They did heal the one who had fallen. So, all told, happy ending for everybody. Boreg was pleased that they had knocked the bear down so quickly, proving their martial skills, and saving the guards, the boy, and the lady, who rewarded each of them with a gold, which is a pretty pricely sum, honestly, for common folk. Although she went back to her wagon. And now the boy, whose name is Smedley, is smitten with the heroes. He wants to know everything. He really is interested in that crossbow that killed the bear. He wants to be taught how to do it so he can shoot at things around his house and maybe his sister. And yeah, he's a fun kid. And generally the group is treating him like a nuisance. Like, okay, go away, kid, you're annoying us. So Boreg said, carry forth. You've got, you know what you're. If there's any other problems, you let me know. I'll be at the wrestling ring. So the group talked amongst themselves for a bit, and they just decided to start patrolling. That was it. But one thing they had determined was that the bear reeked of alcohol. Not good stuff. Bad alcohol. And the coachman noted in passing he could smell it too, and he yelled at them for letting the bear get into their alcohol wares. Well, they hadn't heard that their stores had been hit, so one of the first things they did was go into the camp, and they went off to Sellers Row to see if the stores of liquor that they were selling to the populace of Nevermore and the people visiting the Carnival had lost any liquor. And they were told that, no, that really wasn't the case. They also stopped to sightsee because plenty of locals sell things there too. For instance, Crendon's eye was turned by the wares of some dwarven glassblowers. They had some rather nice items, including a couple of rather marvelous glass items that he noted with some desire. Of course, the group isn't wealthy yet, so they aren't able to just go and drop 25 golds at a time to scoop up a choice trinket, but they have plans. Maybe someday they'll have enough money, and might be some nice rewards there. So, after talking to the gal who was selling the liqueurs, they really only found out that the stores for the Hanatas weren't attacked at all. Unless, of course, it was their personal supplies, which are on the other side of the camp by where their personal belongings and things are. So, since they were going to walk around that way, they also thought maybe we can check back on the track the bear left as it plowed through the forest and maybe find out some clues too. As they were, preparing to walk around and meet up with Boreg and talk to him about their suspicions, they ran afoul of a large, ugly man who was selling pork. He was offering pork ribs for a pretty low price, and they smelled good. The group did overhear a couple people muttering about how that might not exactly be pig on there, because the man was suspected of having an affiliation with a group called the Shiners, which are a notorious criminal group, and that this guy is suspected to belong to them as some muscle for them. So, and that he also has something to do with the Butcher family that lives outside of town, and that people who go there sometimes don't return, but their pigs are really well fed. So the group is suspicious. And as they look at the guy, but they don't interact. They don't chase him off. They don't do anything. He just keeps selling his stuff, and the group takes a note of it and go off to tell Borag. Then they go talk to Borag, and he listens to what they have to say, and he says, well, it would be a good idea to find out why the bear attacked the way it did. If it had gotten into liquor stores with someone local, it might be good to find out whose so that we don't get blamed for this. Because the Hanatas were not attacked by the bear. At least their stores weren't. So, they are even more determined now to go in and check on the path that the bear had left through the woods and maybe find out where the bear had gotten into whatever had set it off. And along the same lines, Borag also said, before you go, it's pretty much high soul. You should probably go and eat. And he gestured over to the wagon of sweets. So they went over there and got some food, and I actually had food here, but it was a little on the late side. That's where we pretty much broke up at that point because it was starting to run late. And it was a good time. They got to look at their characters. They got to read the details of their characters, and over the next 2 weeks, I hope the players really absorb their characters, their goals, their secrets, their maybe fears, and bring those to play next time, and kind of as they understand the characters a little bit. Also, one of the players on our private Facebook post put out what would be known of his character from the people who lived with his character for years. So I think it was a great idea, and hopefully the others do that too, so that they can kind of get a little bit more handshaking going on and work together to build up the story and understand each other and where everybody fits into the story together, aside from all just being part of the same Carney troupe. So those were the events that took place. Clearly, there's much left to do. There's a lot going on. There were no dead spots of just what to do. And I think that's one of the nicest things about this campaign is it's densely packed, and it's not going to leave people just kind of wondering what they should do. So hopefully the group gels together, and we get to tell a great story together over the course of the next several months. But till then, dear viewers, I'm Rob, and that was my State of the Dungeon address. Stick with us, and in 2 weeks we'll continue on the story of the Red Star Rising campaign, The Darkest Dream. Until that time, thank you and farewell.